Majority of our folks that lived inland, this was a bit of a rain and a little bit of a wind event. Maybe some folks lost power, but unfortunately for quite a few residents in our coastline areas, barrier islands, they returned home to find damages in their homes from flooding, and some people are still having water in their neighborhoods this morning. This flooding was worse than what we saw for Hurricane Ada a few years ago. That dangerous storm surge overnight, followed by high tides Wednesday afternoon, inundated hundreds of homes and prompted over 60 water rescue missions of people trapped in flooded homes within the evacuation zone and on the barrier islands. We also saw very significant flooding in Shore Acres and Riviera Bay. We are very glad that we were spared by a direct hit, and we send our thoughts and prayers to those in the Big Bend area that were directly impacted. And today we're really out there getting a better picture for what kind of damages that we see. We currently have teams out on the streets from emergency management, our floodplain manager, the head of our damage assessment unit. We've got the Federal Emergency Management Agency and representatives from the Florida Division of Emergency Management, all getting a better understanding of what has impacted in our areas. First, I really want to highlight some of the impacts from the storm. At the peak of the evacuation, we had 10 risk shelters open, and we had close to 1,700 people in those shelters and 187 people with special needs, and we had about 70 pets that all sheltered through, with us. And I really want to thank our dedicated shelter staff from the county, from the Red Cross, and also from Pinellas County Schools. We had principals, we had facilities folks, we had feeding people in there, and other school staff that really were in there to help make sure that our residents could ride out the storm safely. We've moved anybody that could not return to their homes. We moved them to the Leland Exchange. We just closed Palm Harbor Community Center. Fortunately, additional people have been able to return home today. We served about 30 people in our community centers last night that were not able to return home. From Tuesday night to Wednesday afternoon, our 911 center received over 800 emergency calls, and through our county information center, we had over 8,000 interactions either by phone or live chat. The search and rescue teams really helped hundreds of people get out of those flooded areas. Even though it was like 60 missions, some of those missions, it was multi-family residents having to get people out. St. Pete had reported on Facebook that they had 73 people that had helped remove from flooded areas, and we'll update those numbers as we get more information. As I mentioned, we're out there completing that damage assessment so far. We know that we have hundreds of homes that were impacted by flooding, and we'll start to hear if we're getting wind impacts. Initial reports out of St. Pete from the Shore Acres and Riviera Bay area, they estimate they have hundreds of homes, some that may have had up to 2 feet of water inside of their home. So very important that we get out there and we look at those damages that they had. After the peak of the tropical storm force winds, we had about 28,000 people without power here in Pinellas County. And as of this morning, our partners at Duke Energy are reporting that about 2,600 homes are still without power. So they've had thousands of crews in here working, not only just their crews, but also bringing in mutual aid from people from out of state. So thank you to all of our utility providers who have helped with that restoration effort. Crews from state and county and city worked tirelessly, starting with sandbags at the end of last week, all the way through damage assessment, water rescues, helping out in shelters, and now out there helping with the cleanup effort. So thank you to everybody in our community who has helped us. As everyone gets back into their home, we want to make sure that you remember to do a few things. If your home or business was flooded, before you clean up or move any debris, please photograph and list all damages or lost items. Take photos of how high the water was in your house. We'll want to get good estimates on what the highest levels of the flooding were for our records, and providing that to the National Hurricane Center, National Weather Service. That helps with all the data for future storms as well. Please contact your insurance agent and file your insurance claim as soon as possible. And you can get more information at pinellas.gov/flood-insurance. If you have an electric vehicle and it flooded with salt water, please do not keep it inside of your garage or right next to your home. It is susceptible to spontaneous combustion. We've already heard of at least one electrical vehicle that has caught fire. If your power went out, please beware that the food within your fridge or freezer may have gone bad. If you're unsure, throw it out. We don't want anyone to get sick from eating food that's gone bad. We'll be documenting those flood damages to apply for potential state and federal emergency assistance. We encourage individuals out there in the community to help report damages through us, including businesses. We want to know who's been impacted. That will help us with getting declarations for individual assistance from FEMA, public assistance from FEMA, and getting perhaps a small business association, the disaster loans from SBA for our business folks that are out there. You can use our damage reporting tools that you can find through our Ready Pinellas app or at disaster.pinellas.gov. Really important that we get the best information that we can. Thank you to everybody who's already reported that. We've pulled a lot of pictures off of Facebook and social media that really helps inform where do we need to go out there in the community. There's a lot of resources out there to help people that have suffered losses from the storm. We will post all of those resources at disaster.pinellas.gov. Some of the things that you'll already find up there. So the state activated the Crisis Cleanup Hotline, and this will help with finding volunteers who can help people that have been impacted with things like cutting fallen trees, helping with taking drywall that's been saturated by floodwatering out, helping to remove flooring or removing appliances. If anybody had roof damages, helping with tarping that roofs and mold mitigation. The other thing that happens is once those initial crews have come in and helped with that clean out, then this will also help people connect with our social service providers through our voluntary organizations, Active in Disaster. They can come in and help provide other assistance. Maybe people need financial assistance, maybe they need casework. So we're going to have a lot of resources posted over the next couple of days, so please remember to go to disaster.pinellas.gov. And we want to make sure that our businesses are aware. So as businesses are going back in today and seeing what impacts they had, again, please remember to report that information. And please check on your neighbors, make sure everybody's okay. Some of our elderly folks, the vulnerable populations, if they lost power, maybe they need some help cleaning some things up. So please, we're all in this together. Again, we were very fortunate that we missed the direct hit, but we do know that we have lots of people that were still impacted here in this county. With that, I'll open it up for any questions.
Can you just go over the number of rescues again? I know you highlighted Pete said that they had more than 70, and then you mentioned 60. So is that rescues going out, number of people?
The mission, so it was 60 missions, but remember some of those missions could have been for multi-family residents. I saw a post early this morning where St. Pete said there were 73 people. So we'll look to try to get more of those numbers.
And then just regarding those resources, the Crisis Cleanup Hotline,
Mm-hmm.
volunteers can call that to help other people, and people who need help can call, or?
Crisis cleanup is for people that need help. So if you've had flooding or you've got a tree down, you need cleanup, you can register online for that through the crisis cleanup. They will then find people to come and help you. And then our volunteer agencies, they will be looking at that to see, do people need additional assistance? So we're really trying to make sure that we're taking care of everybody out there.
Do you have that number available right now?
We'll get that for you.
And just one more question regarding as far as reporting the damage, you want them to go to the app or online to report?
Yeah, disaster.pinellas.gov, and it will have a space for residential reporting and then also for businesses. We're working very closely with our municipalities, our private nonprofits. They can report that into emergency management through WebEOC because that may help us get that public assistance declaration from FEMA.
Kathy, one other question we received from one of the folks on Zoom. Can you speak at all to what the initial observations about the beach erosion, beach impacts?
Yeah, so we know that we had between 80 and 90 dump trucks of sand that had to be removed. I think it was between Madeira Beach and Treasure Island. We got initial reports, and I did see some pictures of Indian Rocks Beach where they had like 2 to 3 feet of erosion, just like the drop off. So again, we've got teams out there assessing that today, and having this sand and out there is important because that's what helps protects us from storm surge. So we want to get that assessment because heaven forbid if another storm comes, now we've got less beach area out there to protect us from storm surge coming in.
How many fires were there? I know this morning there was one because of an electric vehicle, some down power lines caused other fires.
I believe I'm aware of, I think, 3 house fires that occurred. And unfortunately, I think in one of those circumstances, because the water was so high, that the fire crews were not able to get in. And thank you for asking that question because, again, this is why we tell people to evacuate, right? Because even if you don't have impacts in your home, the emergency response crews and vehicles will move out from those areas. And if they can't get back in, they can't put those fires out. And heaven forbid people are in that house or if it was a high rise. The thing with high rises, if we lose water pressure, that affects the sprinkler system. So, and elevators are out. We know we have a condominium where at least somebody lives on the 18th floor. The elevator is out right now. And I think there's power to the building, but there's something wrong with the elevator. So, people really need to keep that in mind. And that's why we issue these evacuation orders because not only do we expect impacts in that area, but we're also the emergency responders are going to be moved out of that area. And as we saw yesterday, it takes time to get back in. If you noticed, so three of our causeways were closed coming into the county yesterday. So, all of those impacts are things that we have to consider when we're making those evacuation decisions.
Any additional questions? All right. Thank you.
Thank you so much.